Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Burning Question series by Fantasy Football Scout. In this series, Pras and I, Sonaldo, talk about the key hot topics for the week. We're back, and I'm going to be on a rant today because I'm furious with how the game week went last week. All jokes aside, Pras, how are you doing?
I'm good, and we finally have different teams, so we can have finally different moods as well. Where my week was actually decent. It wasn't the greatest, but it was decent. But yours was a little bit unlucky as well with things going on in your life. So why don't we start with that? What affected you? What happened?
Oh man, where do I begin? I had when we were doing this prep for today's episode, I wasn't really prepping. I was thinking of how to rant and how to let out my emotions, and I'm gonna get backlash for it, but it's part of the fun. It's part of the game, and you're gonna have the highs and lows, and mostly lows. But I think I was very upset because life got in the way. I've been very busy with work outside of FPL, and I was just not paying attention to the price changes and the price rises. And I'm sure people will say, that's your fault. You should be focused on kind of, you know, price changes happen. But yeah, I mean, it's just so annoying that it happens every day, happens randomly. You have to be super alert, super engaged. And sometimes it just happens out of nowhere. Plus, out here in Korea, it's like it happens around 9 or 10 a.m. So yeah, if I'm alert in the morning and I'm focusing on FPL, I can make those moves. But a lot of times, I'm going to work and things get in the way. And so, as you know, Pros, before even we potted last week, I was speaking to you about what team to do, and I had the plan for Perisic, and I've been talking about Perisic from the start of the season, only to take him off in game week 1 because of the news, and then inevitably, Robbo fell on Saturday of the deadline day. I didn't even realize it, so I'm like here smirking. Okay, I'm gonna get Robbo and not Robbo, Perisic and Cucurella. God, Cucurella is so annoying, but I missed out on the boat, and now I'm stuck with a 5.0 injured Ake and 5.0 useless Cucurella, and there's no way to get to Perisic anymore, and he scares the daylight out of me. So it was frustrating, not because I missed out on the boat. Yeah, I think Perisic got a little lucky. I know you're gonna go against that, but I missed out on the haul, and I knew this haul was coming, and I'm sure there's more hauls coming, but there's rotation coming up, and this is rant one out of rant 100 coming up today. So yeah.
That's absolutely fine. Look, I think everyone listening will share the frustrations of price changes. I think the lack of clarity when things happen, even the websites we use, they're essentially predicting what FPL will do. There is no one source out there that can tell you this guy will drop, this guy won't. There's people who think that there should be no changes during the game week, because why would you want to make transfers during the game week? Some people do it only because their hand is forced. So there's things like that which get into it. This isn't the pod to sort of discuss price changes. But look, I think you were in a difficult spot. The only thing that I have as feedback for you is once the Robertson drop had happened, then you didn't need to make the moves that you made. I mean, the whole genesis of the move of the Diaz, Robertson to Diaz via Perisic was the fact that both Bailey and Robertson were going to drop. You took both the drops and then you did the transfer anyway. That was my only frustration when I saw it, and I said, "Come on, Andy! I mean, you could have done something else, like Robertson to Perisic directly, if you wanted to." That was my only thing. But look, we live and learn. Not to worry at all. Everyone's had a bad game week. Um, there is panic everywhere, and when I look at the questions that people have sent, the general sentiment, because there is obviously a shake in confidence because the template was rock solid. In first 2 game weeks, it was delivering. And then suddenly you have a game week where people have 5 defenders and a keeper with a sum total of 3 points. And then suddenly you think, oh, I should be getting on these bandwagons in midfield, and I can't get to it anymore because my midfield is Martinelli, Diaz, and Salah. So we're sort of stuck. Some people are thinking about wildcarding. Some people are thinking of hits. Other people are just calm and saying this is just how FPL works. So we'll discuss all of that, and let's go through our agenda.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I think I was upset that day, but FPL doesn't invade my life, and the next day I woke up fine, and I was just like, okay, what's next? So what do we do next? I missed out on price rises. I missed out on some hauls and opportunities, but we move forward. It's game week 3 out of what 38, so there's so much left to be played, and As you mentioned, consistently last season, Pras, rank and total points is completely irrelevant right now, at least until after the World Cup, most likely. So, if you had a bad game week, relax. I am relaxed too. You can rant, and you can, sort of relate to me as I rant today. But we try to figure it out as we move on. So, for today's
Yes.
agenda, we have sort of planning for game week 4 to 6. And Pras is obviously the planner of the FPL community, and he's going to explain to us sort of things to watch out for because there's some in between scheduling that we need to figure out before the next rotation. A lot of rotation by the time game week 6 rolls around, and then a lot of people will be wildcarding out of game week 8 into game week 9. So lots coming up soon. Maybe some opportunities to go points chasing right now. And then next we'll talk about, these teams, some key performers. The template did really bad, but maybe the template does really well this game week. So lots to talk about there. Captaincy as well. And captaincy, I know we're going to talk about Holland, Kane, and how people are thinking about moving off Holland to Kane, but maybe there's some stuff you need to consider before making that move. And then finally, the bus teams to end the show. I do believe this is our first episode this season where it's just you and me, Pras.
Yeah, except for the first one where we did the wildcard planning
Oh,
thing.
right. That's how bad my FPL memory has become after a bad game week. So here we go. First things first, we have planning for game week 4 to 6. Pras, take it away.
So first, shout out to Neil. So I've taken this off an article that Neil did yesterday, which is exceptional. And what it's doing is, for the listeners, what it does is essentially map out on a day-by-day basis what's going to happen game week 4 to game week 6. And we will share this on Twitter, or you can obviously go on FF Scout's website to check the article in detail. But it's basically giving us the number of days some teams have in between these matches, because now is the time we need to start thinking about. We had a honeymoon period, game week 1 to 3, in fact even 4, where you pretty much have free midweeks. But I say somewhat game week 4 because some of the lower end teams are also playing the Europa League today and tomorrow. Sorry, the League Cup. And now you need to worry about rotation. So rotation is here. What this table is telling us is there's a bunch of games on Saturday. And I think the Saturday games and the Sunday games in game week 4 are reasonably okay, because we've seen from the lineups yesterday that in the League Cup, the teams aren't playing their first 11. The top 6 aren't even in the League Cup in the first place. So you should expect pretty much full teams in this game week 4. But what happens after is the interesting bit. So there's a few elements that affect it. Number one is the Champions League draw. So on Thursday, which is tomorrow, the Champions League draw happens for the big teams. Depending on whether that team plays away or at home, and depending on whether that game is on Tuesday or Wednesday, will have a massive impact on game week 6. Because just so that you're looking at the table, after game week 6, the midweek is the Champions League midweek. So you will find out tomorrow how difficult that fixture is, whether that's home or away, and that will sort of help you backtrack whether that Sunday fixture or the Saturday fixture in game week 6 is one that will have rotation. That's the first thing. The second thing of importance is some teams play Saturday, midweek, Sunday.
I think
which
it's
is actually
Friday, by the way, the UCL
the
draws.
Champions League. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So fine. So the second thing is some teams between game week 4 and game week 6 play Saturday, midweek, and Sunday. So teams like Arsenal, teams like Brighton, Chelsea, they're pretty okay. Leicester is in this as well, and Man United. So they should be okay, because managers actually don't complain ever when they have a Saturday, midweek, and a Sunday. When they do complain is when they have a Sunday, midweek, and a Saturday, because that essentially cramps everything in 6 days, and managers hate that. So who are the teams who have these games in these 6 days? So you have Aston Villa. They play Sunday, then the midweek, and then they play Saturday. Then you have Newcastle. They play Wolves away, and then midweek they have Liverpool away, and then they play Crystal Palace on a Saturday. You have Nottingham Forest. You have Tottenham. So one of the big boys, Tottenham, is one that we'll talk about. And you have Wolves. So these are the teams that have the shortest crunch between game week 4 and game week 6. The other thing to take note is how many are home and how many are away. So between game week 5 and 6, that's how they've done it. Every team plays home or every team plays away. So there's no discrepancy there. But game week 4 basically adds to that. So if you have a team playing game week 4 at home, then they have 2 game weeks at home versus 1 away, and vice versa. So you will see in your bus teams, because you have good teams and you're filled up with the Arsenals, the Cities, the Liverpools, they actually have 2 home games and just 1 away game. So why does that matter? Look at somebody like Man City. Man City play Crystal Palace at home, and then again Nottingham Forest at home at midweek. Do you think there is rotation, or does anybody need to really be rested? Obviously team dependent or who they're facing, but I don't really think so. So when people think Haaland is coming up for a rest, well, he's playing at home on Saturday, then he's playing at home on Wednesday. So when would you expect him to be rested? Maybe it's the game week 6 fixture ahead of the Champions League. So those are the sort of things that you need to do by looking at this table. So coming back to the issues. So I talked about Tottenham, for example. Obviously, people are talking about Perisic. Some are talking about going Kane. I know Kane is not a minute's risk as such. But look, they play Nottingham Forest away on Sunday. Then they play West Ham away, which is a London fixture. So it's not too bad, but it's still an away fixture on Wednesday. And then they play Bournemouth at home. So did I get that? No, they play Fulham at home. So that's basically the issue, where if they're playing 3 times in 6, I think Kulusevski could get a rest. Richarlison will definitely get a game. Maybe he eats up Son's minutes. Maybe he eats up Kulusevski's minutes. Perisic is definitely not starting all the 3 games. That's what is important to sort of look at it. What else jumps out? I think Liverpool jumped out to me as well. So Liverpool essentially are in Liverpool all the 3 games, because they play Bournemouth at home on Saturday. They play they play Newcastle at home on Wednesday, and then they play Everton away on a Saturday. They have 0 travel over the 3 weeks. So when people are thinking about moving out a Robertson or a Diaz, think about the fact that these guys should pretty much play all the 3 games. That was it. What else jumps out to you, Andy?
No, I think you summarized it really well. Again, this is an article by Neil, so you can go back into it. I don't think the visuals as clear as it can be, and also as you mentioned, Pras, it's very important, even early part of the season, to sort of identify the who's going to get the X minutes, especially before the wild card in game week 9. I know this is something we talk about more often towards the latter part of the season, but I think this rotation is going to be a factor, and I like how you mentioned that. Liverpool, there's less risk for rotation. So before you hop off, all 3 of them, or 3 of them to get to 2, I would consider that as well, even if their form is dipping.
Yeah. So just I wanted to emphasize that for me, looking at this, what jumped out to me is game week 6 is the game week with rotation, not game week 5, which a lot of people are predicting, because there is good rest between 4 and 5.
Yeah, so again, the UCL draw is tomorrow. I thought Friday because here it's like, I think 1 or 2 a.m.
It's Friday your time.
Yeah, my time. So apologies there. Yep. Okay,
Good.
cool.
So the only other thing that will happen this week is there are some more your League Cup games today. See what happens in those games. But looking at yesterday, I think none of the big boys played, not in the big teams, but even in the smaller teams. For example, Aston Villa, Bailey didn't start. He did score when he came on. Neto didn't play for Wolves. So, you're not expecting many injuries or issues with minutes that will affect this 4 to 6 span.
Apparently, the Barcelona City game today, City is required to play their stars. I don't know who the stars account for. So, just a friendly though.
I'm ignoring that because Pep knows what's coming up. So he's probably going to start all the stars, but they will play 45 minutes and then other stars will come in, or some will get 20, 30 minutes even. I'm not really worried, and it's a friendly. So it's, people know that they're doing this for...
Why was it set up, by the way? Do you know, Pras?
Maybe it's one of the levers that Barcelona are pulling to fund their transfers. I have no idea.
Yeah, I like it for City though. Just get a couple European games, or get a European game under their belt before their Champions League gets going. So interesting. Okay, shall we get to the fixtures?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very very interesting week. Template crushing, template breaking, whatever you want to call it. Makes the game more fun. And shout out to Dread. Dread obviously is well known in the community, and earlier I think he commented he likes the price rises as opposed to me, because it creates chaos. And one thing also is it's good that the template breaks sometime, because you have players emerge. You have guys like Zaha who come into the fold, Rodrigo, this and that, and so it makes the game much more interesting and different ways to play it for sure. So, yeah, I mean, before we get to any games, anything you want to say about the shift in the tide, or are we just was it just an anomaly of a week? Would you say?
I mean, this is the kind of week where betting companies make their money, right? I mean, things that were expected to happen didn't happen. Man City didn't win, Chelsea lost, Liverpool lost. So it's one of those things where you can either say there's a trend. So if you think underlying, is there a trend of Liverpool being bad? It's one to monitor. I wouldn't say it's something to panic about, but they are off to a shaky start. For Man City, the fact that they shipped 3 goals, for me, that reflects nothing on Man City. It's about how awesome Newcastle were. So that trend isn't on Man City. It's on Newcastle being a great team and one that we should respect in, maybe a tier two or a tier three team going forward. With Chelsea, I think it's becoming a trend, right? Because we saw that going into Game Week 1, where the preseason form was shaky, the messaging coming from the team wasn't great. So we'll come to each of these individually. From a macro point of view, what I'm trying to say is I don't think there was anything earth shattering. The only earth shattering moment was Eric Ten Hag finally stamping his authority on the Premier League and Man United looking good. But again, with them, it was we have to see if it was one off because there
Yep,
was a
yep,
protest and everybody was riled up and it was a rival. I want to see the team do well against the bottom teams.
yep. We'll
A
get to
good
that. We'll
performance
get to
against
that. Yep.
doesn't cut it yet.
Okay, awesome. So let's begin. Let's begin with Spurs and Wolves. Perisic owner, Pras, go ahead. What did you notice in this game?
The first thing is Spurs are very poor in the first half. So people who didn't actually watch the game, I was watching it and I was really really upset with the way Wolves are absolutely dominating the game. And what I did like though is the fact that Perisic was involved in everything that they did. I mean, he was second for XGI after Kane. Perisic took a couple of corners. The rest were taken by Son. He created 3 chances. He had more final third touches than anyone on the pitch. So what that told us is if Perisic is starting and he's getting the minutes, he is basically going to get the points. Not any different from a James or a Trent, Cancelo to a certain extent, but he is just so attacking that he is essentially, if he's on the pitch, he is an attacker who will get clean sheet points. And that's what we got with Perisic. So in essence, nothing new, but the comments that came out of the performance, and this is where sometimes how a player does is also important, not just the decision, is how Perisic played basically meant that Conte was talking about the fact that this is the guy I knew at Inter. He's looking better. As I said in the beginning, he's not going to play the 3 games, Game Week 4, 5, 6. But what it tells me is he will probably start more than less. And if he gets 2 games out of 3, maybe that's okay. So that's my summary on Perisic. Kane is doing Kane things. I mean, he was involved, but his stats are as they have been, slightly dipping because of first half performance of Spurs. Son, I don't know, man. You tell me about Son. Why is Son suddenly off the boil and he's been the one who's being taken off for Richarlison rather than Kulusevski?
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, I know Perisic is great, right? I know he's a hull machine and great asset to it. And I also want Perisic, but let's that assist was a bit lucky. Let's be honest here. And his crossing is great. Like he still gets it to the center of the box and he's very involved. He was probably the most involved. I mean, Spurs were completely locked out the first. Go ahead. What were you about to say, Pras?
No, I was just saying I wouldn't call it. I mean, look,
Yeah.
he also almost assisted Kane for that chance.
Yep.
There was
Yep.
a moment in the game where he should have shot, where he was, he could have scored, but he chose to assist the ball. So again, from an eye test perspective, he was way involved, and I think one assist doesn't do justice to what he got. So I wouldn't call it lucky. Yes, of course, if you're up there for corners, this is his beauty. Either he's taking the corner,
Mm.
or he's actually really good with headers to
Headers.
actually
Yep.
be at the end of corners as well. So he was the first one who reached the corner, and then it went to Kane. So look, I don't think he was lucky as such to get an assist out of the game. I think Spurs were lucky to keep a clean sheet. I think this I'll give you.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was. I'm not saying he was lucky. I think that flick ended up in the right place, basically. But yes, very threatening. All his crosses, left foot, right foot, everything. Center of the box every time. So great asset. But let's get to what's going on with Son and Kane because both of them are just totally off it. I think Son is really struggling right now, and I'm the last person to try to criticize Son, but I have to criticize him when he's not playing well. But one assist in 3 games so far, and in this game he was unable to get past Johnny. Dribbling is very heavy. First touch is off. He's coming, in the preseason Rangers game, we saw Son come in deep to receive the ball and sort of, make the turns and feed Kane, a different pattern from what we saw last year, where it was mostly Kane coming in to receive the ball. So, but we have to think about this, right? In the 3 games he's played, Son was marked by Reece James, man marked completely. And then in this game, he was man marked by Johnny. Both quality defenders, right? Especially Reece James. And when you think about Spurs last season, they played a 3-4-3 every single, very consistently. When Conte first came to Spurs, we thought that he might play the 3-5-2. Richarlison signing was, basically meaning I'm not going to play 3-5-2. It's a 3-4-3 no matter what. And so the most pattern of play last season that they did was Ben Davis, the left center back, would sort of make the wing back run across. Son would cut inside into a inside forward half space role, and then you would see guys like the left wing back Perisic, for example, Sessegnon become basically a winger, right? And so a lot of their attack came through this, but these teams that are in the Premier League now know that Spurs are going to, this is their main route of attack. So now they've man-marked Son, and he's also off form, so he's completely shut out of the game. And then, Perisic is getting the space, and he is the attacking player and the most threatening player from the Spurs, but also he's being man-marked as well on the left. For example, there's a lot of talk about RLC being, not a great wingback, and why is James not playing? But basically, RLC was playing a wingback role as well to mark off Perisic, for example. And so, what's the second thing they have to do? That means they have to bring the ball through the middle, but their two, center mids aren't able to do that right now because they're completely locked out in a box in the middle of the pitch. So that attack of play, that pattern of play is completely locked out. So what's the next thing they do? That means Kane has to drop deep and receive the ball and then release everybody's. But Kane's also not finding the right form. Plus, Son is unable to find the space behind where he thrives best. So what does this mean for FPL? I think Kulu is going to be very important and someone you have to watch out for because there's no chance Conte plays the 3-5-2. And Richarlison was, again, brought in for the 3-5-3, which means they're going to continue to play 2 mids. And if those two mids are unable to bring the ball up and the left side is locked out, yes, Perisic is there, they have to isolate Kulu on the right, focus the defense on the left, and then possibly play the long ball from, for example, Ben Davis to Kulu. And maybe when Kulu is able to sort of, revive the right attack, then space opens up on the left. They're just so easy to read right now, is what I think. So I would stay away from Kane. I would stay away from Son because not only are Spurs struggling, their form as individual players is also not great. But if there's someone that you're interested in besides Perisic, it might be Kulu, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yep. I don't disagree. He was the best player for Spurs. I think even better than Perisic for the first 60, 70 minutes. So Kulu, I think, is a great option. And I think at the moment, he looks secure. But as I said, Richarlison is going to start. We talked about 6 days, 3 games for Spurs. Richarlison is going to start one of them. Could start for Son, but there could be a chance that he starts for Kulu as well. So that's the only risk that I have. But then we're talking about Perisic being okay for 2 starts in 3. Why not Kulusevski? So I don't think that's bad. That's a bad shout. But we will come to Kulusevski when we talk about 8 million mids in general, because it feels like we used to have 15 options there, and now suddenly we have close to none, or none are actually putting their hand up. And the people who are putting their hands up are people between 6 to 8 million bracket, which are the Rodrigos and the Zahas and others. So let's get to that mid spot in a second. But anything else on Spurs? I think defensively, first half they were pretty bad. But if you look at overall in the season, they've been fairly good. They're not letting in a lot of shots in the box. We expect an improvement. And even when Romero was injured, I think it's one to watch. I think with the fixtures, it's not a bad place to be, especially if you own like a Perisic.
Think about the start they're going off, even with their 2 best players being off form. 2 wins, 1 draw, and 1 draw coming against a strong Chelsea side or strong Chelsea playing side that game. So it's a good start, and it's a good sign for Conte. However, the game play itself was not great. So they need to figure out a plan B, plan C, and sort of implement the other pieces around in order for their two best players to come back. I have no doubt Son and Kane are gonna, find their form. And at one point in the season, I'm sure I'm gonna want Son in my team. But right now, I strongly suggest you stay away at his price point. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, same with Doherty. We haven't talked about him, but
Yeah.
for me, Doherty is in the same bracket as Perisic. You get him when he looks available.
Mm.
So basically, people jumped on Perisic because there was this window of opportunity where they said Chelsea, the game they looked bad, and Romero's injured. They probably need more experience. So Perisic. This was my thinking of going for Perisic. So if there is a moment where we get the news that he's looking fitter, Doherty, from all the things he said preseason, is pretty much first choice when he's ready.
Yeah.
So he's now 4.7. That is insane value
Insane.
if he
Yeah.
starts selling. I mean, I would sell even a Walker or a Cucurella if Doherty is starting and we know that he's starting.
Yeah, and guys, Pras is just so keen on the wingbacks, and for him to be shouting out Doherty, for sure, we have to be looking at him. 4.7 is insane value, and I don't think Royale keeps his place once Doherty finds some form. And shout out to our Irish friend Hibbo from last week on his fellow countryman.
Yeah, indeed. And look, the love is because those who played FPL under Conte Chelsea, we all owned Alonso. So basically, Perisic is Alonso of that time. And Alonso was a game breaker. We didn't have a Trent. We didn't have a Cancelo at that time. So it was basically Alonso, Robertson, Mendy, these kind of players. Alonso was clearly the best. So Conte win-backs are basically attackers.
Nice. Shall we show this chart, Pras, about Salah, Haaland, and Kane right now?
Yeah. Let's
Okay,
do that.
cool.
So this is there because there were a lot of questions from people on Haaland, and basically with the quotes that Pep made on Haaland not playing midweek games once midweek fixtures start, and basically this panic. So people are thinking, why not switch from Haaland to Kane? And there's many teams, by the way, that have literally nothing to do. Their team is so well set. They've got 4 or 5 good defenders. They've got 3 or 4 good mids, and they've got 2 strikers in Jesus and Haaland. And they're thinking, what should I do? So the question is, they're thinking, shall we move from a Haaland to a Kane? And the answer is simple. The idea that in the next 3 game weeks, if you think you're going to captain a Kane over a Salah, then probably the move makes sense because Kane will get more minutes than Haaland over the next 3. But my problem is when you look at this table, and what we're showing here is Salah, Haaland, and Kane, because these are the 3 that will be in the captaincy conversation. You can argue we could have added Jesus as well, but let's stick to this for now. And then go game week 4, Salah plays Bournemouth at home, Haaland plays Crystal Palace at home, Kane plays Nottingham Forest away. So I think we agree that Salah is the best captain here. Maybe him and Kane. If Kane was at home, maybe, but Crystal Palace is a good defensive team. So do we agree that Salah is the best in game week 4?
Yes, absolutely. I think Bournemouth is one of the teams to attack in terms of defensively being not great. So, yeah.
Okay. So if you're not making the switch, if you're making the switch this week, you're not going to captain Kane anyway. So you might as well keep Haaland. That was the thinking. Game week 5 is the midweek where Salah plays Newcastle at home, Haaland plays Nottingham Forest at home, Kane plays West Ham away. So again, out of the 3, if anything, Haaland has the best fixture, which is Nottingham Forest at home. Kane has, on paper, the toughest fixture, West Ham away. Now, I am conscious that West Ham are looking terrible, but they won't be terrible forever. It's a home game. It's a London derby for West Ham. So they could put out a performance. Moyes does park the bus in those games. We're comparing on a relative basis. I'm not saying Kane won't score. I mean, Haaland did it in game week 1. But what we're saying is the switch worth it? And I think the answer again in game week 5 is no, because the best captain is either Salah at home to Newcastle or Haaland at home to Nottingham Forest. Now, maybe people will end up captaining Salah because of risk of minutes for Haaland in the midweek. But I think you wouldn't captain Kane, West Ham away, over Salah, Newcastle home, would you?
No.
So that's game week 5. Let's go to game week 6. Game week 6, Salah has the tougher game, which is Everton away. Now, that's a Merseyside derby, so that could be difficult, but it's Everton. So I'm going to agree with you that maybe that's not the easiest fixture because of the fact that it's a derby. Haaland plays Aston Villa away and Kane plays Fulham at home. Now, this is the first week where Kane has the best fixture, which is Fulham away. You could arguably even captain him. So what I'm trying to say over this is do not rush into the Haaland to Kane move now for two reasons. You're not going to captain Kane over anyone in the next two game weeks. We don't know yet if Haaland is actually rotated. Who knows? I mean, maybe he has a say and he says, Pep, look, I'm looking fresh, and give me 70 minutes if you need to rest me. But I've literally not played midweek games until now. Give me a little bit more time. And maybe it's the Aston Villa away fixture where he's rested. So be open with your transfers later, but I don't think this is the week to do the Haaland to Kane transfer. That was the summary. What do you think?
Yeah, perfectly put. I agree. It's very interesting how people are very nervous about his rotation when it hasn't happened, and I know we're trying to predict things in FPL, but yeah, I think this game week there's no reason for him to be, not starting, and they need to bounce back after that 3-3 game. So just wait a week and see what happens, and then next week you can reassess. But I don't think I'm going to sell Holland for Kane at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, we are purposefully not showing underlying numbers because it's 3 game weeks and it's there's a lot of noise in them. But at the moment, there is no contest. Haaland is way ahead of Kane. City is ahead from an attacking point of view than Spurs. I don't think it's worth the shift.
Yep. Okay. Let's move to the next game. I don't think we need to cover every single game, Pras, but
We don't. Let's just quickly.
yeah.
So while you're going to next games, I'll just talk about a few notes that we had. So from this game, Wolves looked very good, as we mentioned.
Okay.
There are rumors that Neto is linked with Arsenal, so watch out for that. Neto has decent fixtures over the next three, so he could be a hold, but not if he's moving to Arsenal, because what happens is if there are rumors and they develop, the player gets dropped. You see that with Fofana at Leicester. They just get dropped, and you'll basically have a no-show in that particular game week. And then, of course, at Arsenal, he'd be a rotation risk. So that's the thing. I think as a game, Wolves looked great from an attacking point of view. We need to remove this thing from our mind that Wolves are not an attacking team. They scored a couple of goals last night as well, where Jimenez is back. He scored a goal. So maybe that changes. And I think a couple of good signs were the fact that this guy, Guedes, he looked very good. He had 5 shots and 3 chances created. So he was actually exceptional in that team. And in the first half, they had 12 shots versus Spurs having 1. So they did give them a game. So that's all I would say on Wolves. You don't need to panic on Neto unless he's moving anywhere, or if you had any other Wolves players, for example.
By the way, pronunciation. Giddes was really bright early on. I did see that, and it's very interesting. I was watching him play, and it's unfortunate their fixtures are going to turn, but I think he becomes a strong asset to the Wolves team. But the Wolves, same story, right? Attack, 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 and they can't finish to save their lives. So, yeah, you need goals in football and you need goals in FPL.
Indeed, indeed. All right, next one, Palace Villa. I'm just going to quickly shoot out some notes from the game. Crystal Palace are a legit good team. That's what we need to sort of take away from this. Vieira has got them attacking. They have got more big chances. They have created more big chances than any other team this season so far. So again, a short stat, only 3 game weeks, but this means they are an attack to kind of back. If you can get a Zaha, you're taking a punt, because for the moment they play City, Newcastle, Man United, Brighton, and Chelsea in the next 5. So it's not amazing, but Palace do well against good teams. So you could go there. If you're a pure fixtures person like me, I would sort of say I'm going to wait after game week 10. They have amazing fixtures. I'll rather go to him then, or maybe I'll punt on him on game week 9 wildcard. But I think there's nothing wrong with going for a Zaha as your 10th, 11th player as an option. So that was the first thing. The second thing was Eze. Eze was, again, very good, and he's already showing that he's a bonus points magnet. He got no returns but got 1 bonus point because of those chance creation stats, because of the dribbling. His off the ball work essentially is well rewarded. He had 3 shots and 3 key passes. So Eze, one to watch. Both Eze at 5.5 and Guedes from Wolves at 6. More options that we have in that price bracket. So that's all I had on Palace. And Villa are just Villa. I mean, they don't have an identity at the moment. Bailey didn't start, but he actually, Bailey did start, and he ended up having an assist. He could have had a double-digit haul, but the team itself looks lost, right?
Yep. I just want to add something on Palace. I think it was FPL I was listening to this week. By the way, great pod. Shout out to Alan and Walsh. And I believe it was Walsh that was mentioning, I might get this wrong, that was mentioning how Eze is extremely good with his passing and a fantastic passer. And a reason why that they're keen on Zaha as well, because his passing allows Zaha to, really be the talisman and really be sort of the guy in front and receiving. And yesterday when I was listening to the Wire FPL Wire boys, they're also, I think it was Late Riser also mentioning that Zaha has I think 10, 11 goals in however many games, and so yeah, Zaha is constantly going under the radar, and possibly a solid pick moving forward, someone to sort of set and forget in your team. As you mentioned, Crystal Palace especially really good at home. So I've never had the
Added penalties, man. That's the problem. He keeps missing penalties. I mean,
yeah
he got
yeah.
lucky and he got the rebound and he scored,
Mm.
but he's just bad at pens. If he was better at pens, he would be even better as an asset.
Yeah, it's also I just haven't had the opportunity to have a chance to bring him in. It's weird. It's one of those things in FPL where you really have to commit to a player like Zaha and really be believing in him in order to bring him in, or else there's not an opportunity that presents itself, I guess, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on Villa from you?
Stay away. If you have Bailey, I guess you can take the chance that whether he starts or not. I heard he had a good game yesterday. I
He
didn't watch
scored. Yeah,
it.
he came on
Yep.
in the last 20 minutes and he scored again.
Yeah, but same thing in preseason, right? So good luck to you, Bailey owners. I'm way past that now. So
No, I think it just comes to system. Gerard
mm,
doesn't know the best system. He says that it's horses for courses. So the team that works best will start. If he thinks that team is a two up top formation, then Bailey doesn't start. But I think he's worked himself into a team where he has the Christmas tree formation, and Bailey will basically be the guy on the right. So that's just the way it is. So you'll have to roll the dice. I would think if he's in your team still, I would play him this week.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's worth it. He's got enough output for it to be worth it for that price.
Yeah, but it is worrying, right? Because you could start him and you could not start. And I know it's system and based on the opposition. I get it. But it's risky.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. Forest, Leicester.
Not much to say on Forest. I mean, Nico Williams is the only one who's of interest, and he had a good game. He's actually top for FPL defenders for goal attempts. So the guy is pretty much attacking. But I come back to the issue that he's taking up a defender slot. He's taking up a slot of a Perisic or a Cucurella. Now, I know Cucurella didn't do well, but over the season, I feel a fifth defender could be of more value, could be Saliba, could be Fofana in the future. So that's my main issue. But otherwise, I think both Neko Williams and Forest in general look decent. But then Forest defense is the worst so far. I mean, they're at the bottom for shots on target, expected goals conceded. So what do you really want? Do you want a starter? He's not a starter. If you want a first bench, then fine. Then it's an argument of opportunity cost for having a fifth defender.
Yeah, I mean, there's nowhere to go there. Also, by the way, there's a Korean striker that's about to be signed on loan for Forest. So very interested to see how he
Another
does.
striker.
Yeah. He's
Oh my God.
he's our starter for the World Cup. So we need that experience to have a chance in getting to the round of 16. So happy to see that happen, but maybe he gets minutes, maybe he doesn't, but we'll see.
Nice. And then what do we say on Leicester, man? Leicester are the team to back for the other side,
Yep.
attackers, because they are very bad in defense. I think if you're on a Ward Iverson double up, and if you have no other big moves, I think it's worth it to move him on to a Sanchez at 4.5 or even up to a Ramsdale 5 if you had the money. So I think that's what I'll say about Leicester. Madison looks good, but the issue is with Madison, he keeps switching. So if he's playing the Madison and Barnes formation, then Madison is slightly less threatening than when it's basically no Barnes and only Madison who's playing number 10 to a Vardy. But otherwise, I think Madison is a good pick. He will pretty much be in a lot of wildcard teams in game week 9 because of their fixtures. So nothing more to say. I mean, their defense is the only one that is important for me right now, and I'm going to back teams that play against Leicester.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Leicester is you want to circle what players in your team play against Leicester, or find teams that play against Leicester before your wild card, and maybe take a punt on. Maybe there's a team that combines playing against Leicester plus, for example, Nottingham Forest, and then you could take the risk there and sort of go for it because, yeah, Leicester's defense is shambolic to say the least. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, nothing more to say on that one. Arsenal, do you want to start with Arsenal?
Um, I mean, they look great, right? We all have Jesus. We all have Martinelli, Ramsdale. I'm so happy to own him. You know, he's like, he just gets these shady clean sheets as a owner as well because he's very good at stopping the ball. But yeah, I think we got lucky in the two clean sheets that he's gotten. But you know, if you have Iverson and Ward, what do you do? I think that's a key question in terms of keepers. So maybe we can address that. And then also, what do you do with a guy like Saka? Because they have had, I think, 13 goals or 14 goals, and he's had only one attacking involvement. And Martinelli at 2 million less is obviously providing much more value than Saka. But you know, they have such great fixtures still, so it's really tough. It's a tough decision on what to do with Saka. Yeah.
Look, this is Fulham at home this game week, so keep Saka. Even if you don't have a Liverpool third slot or anyone else, I think this week play the guy who plays Fulham at home, and then you take it from there. So that would be my say on Saka. I do agree that again, most of the attacks are coming from the left. What's happening is they're overloading that side because Xhaka is going over to the left as well. You have essentially Zinchenko cutting in, and he's basically Xhaka is the one who's providing the width or even getting into the box, and you have Martinelli as well, kind of covering for Jesus when he's pressing. So I think whoever three you have, you keep. If you don't have three, you get to three. The only summary I have is on Ramsdale, which is this is pointed out by Mark, FPL Virgin on FF Scouts forums, and that's his name. I can't help it. And so what he found was if you look at the baseline bonus for all keepers, first 3 game weeks, Ramsdale is at the very bottom. And this is happening because he's just not creating enough BPS, because you have all these BPS monsters like your Zinchenko's, like your Gabriel's, like your Jesus if he gets output. So he's basically not in the bonus at all. So unless he's not even getting the saves. He has a 45 minutes per save so far, which is third best after Edison and Lloris. So that's great that they're not letting in shots, but it's not great for us because he's not going to get any save points. What it basically means is you've bought an Edison who's got good clean sheet potential, but he's basically going to give you 6 points or 2 points. So that's something to monitor for Ramsdale, because a lot of times we have in our minds the Ramsdale from last season, where Arsenal were letting in a lot of shots. He was saving them, getting bonus. He was also the guy who was, involved in the passing. But now Zinchenko has sort of taken that over. Gabriel has taken that over. So something to monitor. Ramsdale is fine if you have him, but he's not going to give you 10 pointers.
That's very interesting that we predicted sort of preseason that Zinchenko was going to take up the bonus points. And, when it comes to goalkeeper talk in FPL Pras, for some reason, bonus is a very big factor with keepers. Bonus is always in the conversation with which keeper you should pick. And essentially, it's 1 or 2 or 3 points max. And that's how scarce, keeper points are, because if they lose their clean sheet, what else do they have? So, I guess a meta conversation for later, but yeah.
Yeah. So that was it on them. I don't know. There was nothing to add on Bournemouth. So I know we're skipping games, but I think let's stick to the teams that are of FPL relevance for people. So what should we do next?
Should we do the big three now? Chelsea, not Chelsea. Let's start with Liverpool United.
Yes, the big team, Man United.
Yeah.
So look, I think FPL relevance from Man United is the fact that it was a good performance. Finally, a very, very good, strong performance. it showed that Ten Hag isn't so fixated with his views, because one of the things that stood out is De Gea was basically lumping the ball forward. So it shows that this guy isn't he's going to say, this is my way, or this is the only way. So he knew that Liverpool are there for the press. He knew that De Gea isn't the best at passing around from the back. So we were lumping the ball forward. And what worked was what used to work with Ole, where counter attack was a thing, but then the top three pressing was great. So I think from a Man United perspective, very encouraging. I think Rashford played out of position. Now that Martial is back, that may not happen again, but he looked in confidence. He had 5 goal attempts, 5 shots in the box, and Rashford gave people who were ultra patient a lot of FPL points. The only other thing from Man United perspective is Malacia looked really good, and he's only 4.4 in FPL, and I think he will pretty much nail down that place, especially for important games. So one to monitor. If that's something in due course, if somebody wanted to go, that's a place to go. What else? I mean, Casemiro will only improve the defense. It will improve the way they transition from defense to attack, which has been the biggest issue. The team is working hard, but ultimately it comes down to Ronaldo, unfortunately, because if he stays and if he starts, then he will hog the attack. It will make the attack more blunt. So as long as he's starting, I think none of the players are a go. If he leaves before the transfer deadline, then I think there's some very, very emerging attractive options for Man United.
Okay. All right, I'm ready for this. I am not a United fan. I am not a Liverpool fan, so I don't want to upset any side. I'm going to sit on the fence here and try to be the nice guy and give you my take on this game, right? Basically, it was the perfect storm for United. Liverpool are missing some key cogs in the midfield right now, and Thiago and I think Fabinho didn't start this game. So one of Liverpool's main attacking patterns of play, and a lot of people probably notice this, is yes, sure, you have your triangle on the right with Henderson, Salah, and Trent, but another way of they attack is their wing backs bomb forward really really high, as you know, Pras. And so when Trent has the ball on the right side, for example, and he's making those inside runs, it brings the entire team towards, opposition team towards him, and it creates sort of an island and space on the left for Robbo to be open. And then what they'll do is make those diagonal, crosses and diagonal, what do you call it, across the pitch passes to Robbo, where Robbo will receive the ball and attack. Vice versa, usually it's Thiago who has the ball, and then he'll find Trent on the other side. And the reason they do this is that they can, build up really fast, right, and sort of get the ball to the opposition really quickly. So the problem right now is that Trent's passing was really woeful this game, and so when you have Ten Hag pressing super high, and he started non-Ronaldo young kids and really press machine kids who are pushing pinning the defense back, and Trent's making mistakes with these crosses, then Bruno Eriksson will receive the ball and they'll quickly counter. And you saw in the first, I think, 10 minutes, Elanga hit the post, but that was like a 1-2 pass, McTominay to Bruno to Elanga, and then they hit the post. Exactly. But if you look at that counterattack, Trent was super high up, and there was space behind him, completely wide open. And Robbo, made a mistake pass to McTominay. So basically, not only is Liverpool struggling with their main attacking pattern of play, but Ten Hag's tactics against Liverpool's side worked. On top of that, I think the second goal was Henderson's mistake of a touch. So usually it's Fabinho playing the center defensive role, but it was actually Henderson playing that role this time, and his touch and everything was a little off as well. So I think you shouldn't read too much into this game as a FPL United trying to find the right assets. Also, I know you're smiling. Liverpool just aren't finding the right form, and
yeah, look,
great game
I'm
for
not
United.
disagreeing.
Yeah.
This is how Liverpool always play. Trent always leaves space behind. You have to get the mistakes out. How do you get the mistakes out? You press like hell. And Man United never do that. So yes, they got mistakes out of them, but it was because of the hard work that the team was putting in. I mean, they outran Liverpool. Not many teams do that. So I think they were very, very encouraging signs. Did we play Liverpool at the right time? Of course, of course. So it's a combination of the fact that Jota, Nunes, Thiago were out. People are a little bit out of form or rusty. I don't know why that is, but it's looking like Fabinho is not looking great. VVD is not looking great. Robertson is looking okay-ish. Diaz was completely absent. So even Salah, I mean, people are captaining Salah blindly, and we got lucky. We have been lucky for the first 3 game weeks. Actually, people who went against Salah have been slightly luckier. Sorry, very unlucky, because Salah has got the points and he has pedigree to do that. But it's not like he's completely beating down on the goal. He's creating 20, 30 chances and then scoring one of them. He's basically coming one off. And this happened in the Charity Shield as well, that he's getting the points. He has the pedigree, like I said. So you can back him against a Bournemouth at home and for future captaincy. But I'm way more open to looking at things and saying, in the future, if Spurs have a good run, if Man City have a great run, then people need to be more open to go Salah to KDB or Salah to Son. Options are there, and the bar is even higher because he's a million more than them. So, not saying Salah out now, but I think people need to be more open. So that's basically it on Liverpool.
Yeah,
People are there, values there, fixtures are there. Keep, but I would not kind of drool over them because they had 2, 3 seasons of good FPL output.
no, I agree with you. I think the point I was trying to make is let's wait and watch for in terms of United assets. Let's wait and watch to see how they do against a non high pressing Liverpool team and see how they react to a low block team, because this is a good game to bounce off of and try to find some rhythm and form for guys like Rashford and Sancho as well. So yeah.
Rashford, I agree, because it will depend on some of the signings. So, for example, if Anthony joins, and some people are saying that will eventually happen, then I agree that it could be something where Rashford either loses his place or minutes are affected. But Sancho, Martial slightly dependent on Ronaldo, but otherwise I think Martial will be the number 9 going forward. Both decent picks, and I think in defense, like I said, Malacia if he starts at 4.4. So, but those are ones to monitor. But your point, Andy, on look at how they sort of perform over the next few. Man United never have a good run. So game week 6 they play Arsenal, game week 9 they play Man City, game week 12 they play Spurs, game week 13 they play Chelsea. So after every 2 game weeks they have a tough game. So either you have conviction and you go for it and you get the rewards, or you sort of just sit on the fence and you wait for the longer term. I'm of the latter, so there's nothing wrong with doing that. But also I think there's nothing wrong with jumping if you feel that you've seen enough.
Yep, fair. Okay, good.
Anything else on Liverpool? Because that's obviously a hot topic for people.
Yeah.
Those on Robertson, those on Diaz, I think they're all sort of looking, do I need to hold the third Liverpool? My answer is absolutely. Yeah. When you're playing, when I've just said that they're playing Saturday, midweek, Sunday, they have enough time. They're not really traveling over this crunch period. Hold your Liverpool assets because they could still come good. The team hasn't suddenly become bad, and they're priced well. So I think both Robertson, Diaz, fine. Definitely don't sell Trent or Salah. I think those are keeps. So that's essentially my Liverpool thing. What do you think?
No, I agree. I'm not even thinking about it at all. Like I'm excited to own all 3 Liverpool assets next week and see how they do. So, yeah.
Liverpool are highest for clean sheet odds against Bournemouth this weekend. So people who are doing anything Robertson to anyone, just wait. There's no need to do it this week.
Yep. Okay, let's do we have got 2 more games. Leeds, Chelsea, or Newcastle, City. Both great games. Where do you want to begin?
City.
Should we do City? Okay. Yeah. I've got some stuff on City.
Go on, you take it away.
Okay, but first of all, there was a quote by Pep. I can read it out loud. Last season, this is about Haaland. Last season, he didn't play 90 minutes because he was injured. The physios and doctors did an incredible job since he arrived to avoid injuries. Now he has 1 game a week. I tell you now, when we have games every 3 days, that Erling will not play. I will play Julian Alvarez. When we start with games every 3 days, everyone is going to play. So we talked about this earlier on the episode, but yeah, thoughts on this quote, Pras?
It was expected. I don't think, but I would say we have to wait to see it happen rather than preempt it. and sort of sell Haaland because midweek games have come. So I would rather be in the camp of hold Haaland game week 4, game week 5. If rotation happens, so be it, rather than expecting rotation. So that would be my play. And we've already talked about the Haaland to Kane switch so earlier, so we won't talk about that anymore.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, Ake injury really, really sucked because I'm still very keen on the City double defense. I think that's perfectly fine going forward. Yes, rotation becomes is going to become a problem, but that's with any position in the City side. And if anything, you can predict the defense more on who's going to start and so on and so forth. But I want to sort of do a Gundogan section, Pras, because if I had a wild card, I'm tinkering with it. I'm very tempted to press the button this week.
You're tempted to wildcard. Wow, we should have had a section on that. But we'll come to your bus team and then you tell
Yeah.
me why you want to wildcard.
I mean, I'm not going to, but I'm very tempted to, which sounds ridiculous, but it's just not the right week. But if I had a wild card, I think I would go for Gundogan, and I'll sort of explain why. My theory here. So last season, what is Pep known for is his inverted fullbacks. But last season, what we saw is one fullback would be inverted, would come inside, and the other fullback would either stay back or sort of help provide the three back. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This season, what you're seeing in the first three games is both fullbacks come inside and leaves the two center backs alone. So it looks like a 2-3 at the back. So, for example, it's Ake and Stones, and then it's Rodri in the middle, and then Cancelo and Walker forming like a 3 mid in the middle. So this is just the average position by game week for both Cancelo and Walker in the first three games. You can see they're they still have to play wide because they still have to cover the wing backs and the wingers bombing forward, but you can see they're very close to the inside touch line. Again, you can see, this one on the left and right is both Walker and Cancelo. Heat map, same thing, very, very similar inside. So visually, you can sort of imagine this is what they look like, right? So they have Cancelo, Rodri, and Walker sort of formulating this three. I'm not sure if it's popping up on your screen, Pras, but this is what happened. So why is this happening, basically, right? And the reason this is happening is after the first game, Moyes, the West Ham game, what Moyes said, it's impressive how their fullbacks are playing as wingbacks or inside wingbacks. Literally, he said that after the game. And the basic summary is that the reason this is happening is that guess who was the top scorer for Man City in 2020 to 2021? Pras, question.
Cancelo?
Gundogan.
Okay.
Two seasons ago, Gundogan was the top scorer for Man City. Can you? I didn't even believe it myself, right?
Some of us captained him a few game weeks, so I do remember that. Yeah.
Okay. Last season, he wasn't as attacking, but Gundogan, what is he best at is making those inside the box runs, darting forward, and you've seen that time in and time out. Last season, he had to cover for the other inside wing back, so he was part of that three sitting back, which allowed KDB to move forward. But because those two guys, Cancelo and Walker, are moving forward inside, this allows Gundogan to basically become a shadow striker. He's playing striker for Man City alongside Haaland at this moment in time. And so, for example, not only does this make Gundogan's runs better, the times runs better, it also opens him up in the cross situations because the attention is going to be on Haaland, right, defensively. And so when they cross the ball to Haaland, for example, Gundogan is going to be kind of like Inzaghi-like poaching behind and looking for the open ball or the second ball, basically, right? So this was a prime example of focus on Haaland, and then Gundogan receives the ball. I think he scores this. I can't remember. So this is one example. Another example is, look, Gundogan's making that timed run. Haaland, there's 1-2 defenders. Number 2 has to focus on Bernardo Silva, but he also has to focus on Haaland. 1 obviously has to, is aware of Haaland running behind him. Ball gets crossed, and it's Gundogan free open again. I think he missed this one, or this one's the goal. I can't remember. But again, similar situation, right? And so I just think that while it's hard to predict where the Man City goals come from, because we time in and time out in this pod we've said Man City goals are so spread out, you have to take the chance with their attackers, and it's not Foden, it's not Grealish, it's not Mahrez, it's the guy that's playing striker alongside Haaland that I want at 7.5, which is a lot cheaper than the rest. So very interesting what I saw in this game, and defensively, I think they caused a lot of errors because the inverted forwards were sort of exposed as they come inside. It opens up a lot of space on the wings, and ASM obviously great great dribbler, and really fast. So you saw him have a great game. So I wouldn't read too much into them defensively collapsing, because next game they might possess the ball 80% of the game again. But again, yeah, just very interesting what I saw in Gundogan. I'd like to know your thoughts. Yeah.
So two things, and I'm skeptical about everything. So I'm going to give you two counters, and you tell me what you think. Firstly, to start, I don't think it's a bad shout at all. He's a good option. No Man City mid is ever a bad shout because of the fact that they score so many goals. So my 2 points of skepticism are: number one, this both fullback being inverted is not a thing they do in every game. So for example, against Bournemouth, it was only Walker who was doing that, and Cancelo was actually quite wide up top. So that's the first thing. So it may not happen every game where it's Gundogan and KDB sort of pushing ahead. It could be just KDB. The second point is X minutes, because right now Gundogan got a few minutes because there was a lot of Bernardo Silva to Barcelona rumors. In fact, at some point there was, it was a done deal. But as it happens, Barcelona broke, Bernardo Silva is staying, and it's now official. So I just feel whenever Mahrez plays on the right, or whenever Foden plays on the right and Grealish on the left, you've essentially got Bernardo Silva and Gundogan competing for one spot. And no matter what you say about Gundogan, and he's very, very good, Bernardo Silva is also very, very good. So that's my main issue, that right up to the point where now we're heading into midweek games, you're basically going into a heartbreak where you'll be looking at the team sheet. And now you've just changed the problem. Instead of a Foden or a Grealish, you've changed the problem to a Bernardo Silva or a Gundogan. But in the backdrop of all of this, I do think that the way they sometimes play, which was your basic premise, it makes a Gundogan more attractive than even one of the forwards, because they actually hug the touchline a lot more. They are the guys who provide the width. So in the context of tactics, I think Gundogan is a good option. But what this tells me is KDB is an amazing option as well. Of course, he's way more expensive, but this is, now we know that KDB will have that I'm going to help Haaland press role. This may be different when Alvarez starts, by the way, but in most games where Haaland will start, KDB will be right up there. And that basically means that look for more goals. He was the one, for example, against Newcastle. If you remember one of those chances that Haaland actually put up front and KDB ran, and then he had a shot in the box. He was close to scoring. You don't normally see KDB doing that. It's normally KDB making the pass and the inside forwards making those runs, or maybe it's the forward who's playing up top making that run. So it tells me that KDB is going to be a great attacking option this year. Gundogan could be, if you have a view that he's starting over Bernardo Silva.
I mean, I completely agree, right? Like, if KDB is the superior option, and if anything, I would even consider KDB over the other premiums right now because of how good City look. But that's the risk you have to take with any City assets, especially the attacking assets. And I think the main worry with Gundogan is, as you mentioned, Pras, it might be a shift in strategy all of a sudden, and Pep decides to do something else because it is Pep. But it's this is a pattern we've seen consistently, and I go back to 2 years ago when Gundogan was a top scorer for Man City. This was exactly what he was doing, making those runs inside and playing the shadow striker role. So I think if I was wildcarding, I would give it a go. I think I would pick him over the likes of Zaha, even and maybe pair him alongside a 8.0 in Diaz or Kulusevski. But man, I like the look of what Gundogan's doing right now. But game by game, we'll see.
So defense then. We don't know how long Ake is out, right? I mean, he could even be back. Have you seen anything on his injury?
No, I haven't read anything, and I'm very worried about that because I can't get to Walker anymore. I think he's 5.1. So I can I guess I can go Stones, but nothing. If the chat has heard anything about Ake, please let us know because
No, I don't think
yeah.
there's been any big update.
Okay.
So my point is now you'll have Diaz and Stones pretty much nailed until Ake is back, even though both are right-footed, but they've played in the past together, which also means that Cancelo was always nailed, but also Walker. I mean, those are the only fit guys they have, unless they start this new guy who they've signed as left back. So Walker had a terrible game against Saint Maximin, but he's not the first right back who's had a terrible game. So I think it's fair to hold whoever you have from your City defense. I don't think City defense will become bad just because Ake is injured. So I think that's my view. You just hold on to who you have. But I am a little bit wavering on Walker because you're not getting any upside. So if he does start to become a little bit of a minutes risk, then it's one that I need to sort of monitor as a Walker owner.
Pras Ake was playing really well. I mean, he stopped that one big chance they had. I know it was offside, but I was really upset about that. I think I would be happy to own him. But shout out Quicksilver FPL. I know you're in the chat. He's the new Luke for this season in terms of team predictions. So, check out Quicksilver when you have some questions on who City are going to start. So, shout out Quicksilver. But okay, cool.
So that was it. And I think we covered Newcastle to an extent that is relevant for now.
Yep.
I think Newcastle after game week 5 are a team to target, both from an attack point of view as well as a defensive point of view. So Trippier is the obvious one. Nick Pope is actually, I think, second in number of saves or second or third in saves per 90 minutes. So definitely a very good option. And then in attack, Wilson looks very good, man. I mean, he's always, whenever he's playing and he's fit, he always gets goals. So
Yep.
I think Newcastle will be a team we'll all target a lot because they're priced appropriately, but they are in the market for more players, right? I mean, we'll come to Leeds, for example. They are in the market for a Harrison, and they've made bids for other players that could be of FPL relevance. So in the attack, I think other than Wilson, who may be rotated or may get injured in a busy period, I think there's nobody else yet. Don't jump on an Almiron or a Saint Maximin because they could be rotation there.
Yeah. It's crazy because the World Cup season's coming up, and obviously I'll be cheering on South Korea. And you just shouted out Wilson, and Wilson. I think he's English, right? So English player, and he's not nowhere near the English team. And I would love to have him as a South Korean playing in the World Cup. So just goes to show how much debt and how much quality players there are in the Premier League. It's very exciting times to watch the Premier League for sure. Yeah.
Oh, and I missed that Wilson did actually have a hamstring injury, didn't he? So we don't know how long he's out for, but anyway, that's not an option for the midweek fixtures.
Estimated 6 weeks by SBAM. Thank you for that.
That's that.
Okay, let's go to Leeds, Chelsea.
Well, before that, I saw a lot of angry comments in the chat that we missed Fulham Brentford. So let me
Whoops.
just do that when you pull up the Leeds slides. So I think on Fulham Brentford, I think the thing to note is the two strikers, Tony and Mitrovic, are legit. I mean, we mentioned this on the last pod that if you were wildcarding, go for a Tony. And then you transition a Tony to a Mitrovic in game week 8 because that's a really nice fixture run. So these are two guys that I can see on a lot of wildcards, even in game week 8. And I think the meta strategy will become 3 up top. As long as Jesus keeps doing the business, Haaland keeps doing the business, then you have one of Mitrovic or Tony. And both had an amazing game. They both scored. They had a goal disallowed each. And I think there's not much more to say than that. I mean, they're both excellent value. Pereira, a lot of people started and got the returns. And this shows that he's a legitimate rotation option where people maybe benched Trippier. Now, that didn't work out because Trippier scored himself or somebody else in game week 3. And they got the points and you could again do this in game week 5 where he's Brighton at home. So Pereira is very much a playable option, a rotation option, and a very good first sub if you're sort of going into this midweek crunch period.
Yep, agree completely. Can't wait to own Mitrovic, but same with every single other FPL manager that's engaged. So what do you actually gain from him? I don't know because by the time 8 or 9 rolls around, we'll probably all own him.
Yeah, yeah. And last night, I think one note for Brentford. Last night, Damsgaard also started,
Oh,
and he
interesting.
got 70 odd minutes. So we don't know how that'll affect Vissa's or De Silva's minutes. So, and even Luis Potter started. So there's people who sort of have those players and are expecting starts. So I think De Silva in particular may not be a regular starter if Damsgaard starts or starts in the Premier League.
Nice. Ready to bash Chelsea.
Go on, you want to start?
No, no, no. I'm just kidding, Chelsea fans. Just FPL talking here. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Why? Um, I was really bummed about this game because I think initially Sterling had an offside goal ruled out, and I do believe it was Cucurella who assisted. And I think if they got that goal, it would have changed the result a little bit. You know, just game state, right? Football. Um, so it was very frustrating. And then the whole Reese thing, I just cannot understand why he's playing center back. I know in the Spurs section we're talking about how he was there to pin Son in the previous game, but why this game? You know, like why are you not playing him in where he needs to be playing, giving us FPL points? So just really frustrating. I'm very very worried about owning Chelsea defense, even though the fixtures look pretty decent moving forward. But go ahead, Pros.
Um, First thing to say is hold on to all your Chelsea assets. They play Leicester, which is great. So all those Mount owners who are getting twitchy fingers, this is not the week. Same for Saka owners. Um, that's the first thing. Yeah, they look poor. They're poor. They look poor from an attacking perspective. They look poor defensively. Now Koulibaly is also out for the next game week. Um, but I wouldn't waver. I think Cucurella for 0 million playing as left wing back is amazing. I mean, it's basically Chilwell for 6 million, or Chilwell of last year for 5 million. Of course, in the next game he'll play left centre back because Koulibaly is out. But that's okay, man. I mean, the formations could change. They could play four at the back, and maybe Cucurella starts as a left back. So I don't think we should jump to, I'm going to sell Reece James because he's playing right centre back. Because I've said it every single pod that right centre back is what Reece James is. If he was at 6 million, he's a right centre back. When he plays right wing back, which happened again this game, then he's way more than 6 million in value. So just because they conceded and they looked poor doesn't mean Reece James is a bad asset. He's definitely not. Uh, the fact of the matter is they're struggling without Kante, without Kovacic, and Kovacic is, I think I heard Zoff say, another few weeks out. So you're not going to get him until the international break. So you have to take a call if double defense is something that you still want to back. I still think that given that they're 6 million and 5 million, it's not the end of the world to own double defense. What you have to think about it is that you have some attacking potential in a tier 2 defense. They're not a tier 1 defense without Kante and Kovacic. So in a tier 2 defense, it's not the worst thing to have a 5 million wing back and a 6 million, sometimes left, sometimes right center back and sometimes right wing back.
Yeah, the issue with Cucurella is he lacks that finishing quality. He's so involved. He's so high endurance, high energy type of player, and you love to see that. But he doesn't have that. I'm being very careful here, but he doesn't have that that final quality on the ball for it to return to FPL points. So yeah, I'm not very confident because I don't think they're secure for clean sheets. And the minute the clean sheet is out the table, then I'm stuck with two, and I really need them to be attacking and at left center back and right center back, double Chelsea defense. We'll see. I mean, I'm not going to sell either of them, but I'm hoping for the best this game week. Yeah.
I mean, we're all hoping that they panic buy Ronaldo, or we as Man United fans, or I think they're in for Oba as well. So that could help the attack because essentially it's the finishing ability. I think other than Sterling, no one looks to be sort of close to coming to scoring.
Yeah, what's
And
going
then
on there? Yeah.
I look, they've never been a massively high scoring, free flowing team. So it's something that they've never actually figured out. Not with Werner, not with Lukaku, not with Sterling. So they don't. I don't know what they need. I mean, maybe Ronaldo is who they need.
Yeah. They Havertz looks off it. Okay, let's go to an FPL question. If you have Mount, I know the standard answer here is you definitely keep him, right? Because of the fixtures, but
Leicester, man. I
I know it's
mean,
Leicester,
Leicester will
but
concede 2 goals. Leicester will concede 2 goals.
it's a lot of money tied up in that midfield. You know, I guess if you have two free transfers, maybe you could make one move, but yeah, I guess the right play here is definitely not to sell because it is Leicester, probably the worst defense in the league, but he doesn't give me great vibes, to say the least.
No, fair enough. And I don't look. People will have, like you said, if it's a luxury move, then fine. But there are other things, and I just wouldn't panic on double defense or a mount at all right now. And you see what happens after this game. Now, let's say if you don't have a Diaz, you don't have a third Liverpool, and you wanted to switch from Mount, maybe we can have a conversation, and that's a little bit team specific. But I don't think before Leicester, we've just talked about Leicester, man. I mean, they're conceding 2 goals a
Yeah.
game. Why would you sell an attacker? And he was actually back on corners. So there is a merry-go-round going on in Chelsea in terms of set pieces, where James was on all of them. And then in the next game, James had none, and Cucurella was sharing with Mount. And this game again, Mount had a lot of set pieces. So we will sort of he'll have avenues to points. And if Chelsea can score 3 goals, you're looking at a double-digit haul from Mount. So I won't sort of give up on them so quickly. Chelsea are a good team.
Yeah, I think for me the Mount one's very difficult. Very 50-50 on it. If you can afford it as a luxury move, I think you do it. If not, play him. It is Leicester, and if he does haul against, I mean, I don't know about haul, but get an attacking return against Leicester, then that would suck. So, play the fixtures. I guess is the right play here. But with that being said, fellow Cucurella and James owners, no less than 30 points this game week for those two. We hope.
I think that's optimistic because Leicester should also score. Look, I think there is attacking potential long term because what's going to happen? Let's talk about the Cucurella and James owners. What's going to happen is this game week, Chilwell will probably start left wing back. Chilwell isn't ready to start 2 games in a row. So you'll have Cucurella playing left centre back against Leicester. And then the next midweek, game week 5, he'll play left wing back. So that's decent value for 5 million. I mean, what else do you want? So wait it out 2 game weeks, and if Cucurella still doesn't look great, because his end product isn't the same as a Chilwell, so I'm not comparing them as such, but it's worth it for 5 million. Keep him for next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I guess there's that Chilwell and James combination that still lingers in the back of my mind from last season. I mean, what valuable assets they were. Chilwell basically playing striker and good times, but hopefully we'll see Chelsea turn it around this game week. The perfect fixture to do so. So yeah, let's go to Leeds. Very hot topic right now. Obviously, they're playing Brighton this game week, which is not the easiest. But then again, maybe with the form that Leeds is in terms of attack, you can ignore fixtures to a certain extent, and then 5 to 8, 5 to 8 or 5 to 7 presents a great run of fixtures for them. So probably a team to target in terms of punting on and chasing those big points because you can wildcard out of it in game week 8 after the international break. So Rodrigo very hot. Obviously great preseason and continue to do well. I think he's 6.3 now. Harrison, hot topic, and Aronson as well. I know Pras and I were FPL Pig, by the way, Ronald, was very keen on Aronson before anybody was on him. So shout out to Pig on Aronson as well. So yeah, exciting times for Leeds, a different team from Bielsa, which is very surprising because we thought they maybe struggle to change their philosophy, their identity, but they've seemed to find something really great under Jesse. So very interested in Leeds. How about yourself, Pras?
No, nothing to add. Definitely, the signs are looking very, very good, and the fixtures are very good. So when these two stars align, you need to sort of sit up and take notice. I think what we wanted to cover, so you see in the visual, is a lot of people are automatically going to Rodrigo because of the goals, and that's natural. He's getting FPL points. He's got excellent stats from an XG perspective. Now, normally we don't compare stats after 3 game weeks because it's too little, but you could compare stats between the players from the same team because there is less noise. They've played the same opponents over these 3 game weeks. So I think what we did here is we used the scout comparison tool. So now you can compare 3 players in the members area. And I just wanted to have a look on how does Rodrigo look versus Aronson versus Harrison, because all 3 have been in and amongst the goals and assists over the first 3 game weeks. Now, one thing that jumps out is Harrison is way ahead of everyone in terms of chances created and XA. He's the guy on set pieces. He's the one creating all the chances. I have 2 things out of that. Number one, what happens to Leeds if Harrison ends up going to Newcastle, because he's linked to them? We don't know if that will materialize, but something to watch out for. And number 2, if you wanted a steady returns of somebody who is going to be nailed, then for me, Harrison is as good, if not a better option than Rodrigo, because we mentioned last time that Rodrigo is still in on the periphery. It's a bit like Martinelli. His situation is actually exactly like Martinelli. As long as he keeps scoring and doing well, he will keep playing. No issues around it. But the moment they have 2 bad games, we talked about it: Sinistera, Aronson, Harrison, and Bamford. That's the top 4 that most fans are predicting. Now, I'm conscious that Rodrigo is doing so well. Jesse Marsh is talking him up so much that he probably stays and he will start until the the international break. So Rodrigo is an excellent pick. I'm not bringing that down at all, but I just feel like people are missing the fact that Harrison is also an amazing pick. And if you can't get to either without a hit, then Aronson is also a good pick. Now, something that strikes me with Aronson is it's a classic eye test versus stats point, because Aronson looks great on the eye. Yeah. He's making everything happen. And Rafinha used to basically look great, but also had great underlying stats, whereas Aronson so far doesn't have the great underlying stats. He's actually worse out of all 3 options across the board. If you look at this comparison table, there's only one thing he's better from an, there's only a couple of things where he's sort of matching them or slightly better. But I would say that the two guys to focus on are Rodrigo or Harrison. That's my take from it. I think everyone knows Rodrigo is doing really well, and if you can get to him, he's a great option until game week 8.
Yeah, excellent summary, Pras. And I like how you are shouting out Harrison here.
I think you're on mute, Andy.
Excellent summary, Pras. And I like how you're shouting out Harrison here. I found a great tweet. I think it was maybe today, before the pod. And this is from @Libero FPL, LIBERO FPL. So shout out Libero FPL. And the title was Accidentally Discovery Stat, and I'm going to read it word for word. This is not my stat. This is from Libero FPL again. He says, Rodrigo has 5 returns from 2.4 XGI as stands. 4 goals come from 1.8 XG. However, one of these goals and the one he stole on the goal line to an open net was 0.9 XG. That means that his other 3 goals were from 0.9 XG. So basically, he's got 5 returns with 4 goals, but they're not the highest in terms of XG, sort of like a Sonny. But with that being said, he's also, topping the charts in terms of other attacking stats. And sometimes it's not, you don't need to read too much into the XG stats when a guy is super hot and in form, and the team itself is attacking really well. So I thought it was a very interesting counter argument to just the Rodrigo hype, and possibly a shout to Harrison as well.
Yeah. So I think good option, right? I mean, I think, again, big picture, what we're saying is the teams are so similar that the ways to go different is basically only 2 or 3 slots. Basically your 8th, 9th, or 9th, 10th, and 11th player. Some people have a 5th defender. Some people have a 3rd striker. Some people have a 4th midfielder. And if, for example, this week, a lot of people had Rodrigo, but they didn't have Perisic, or some had a Tony and didn't have Rodrigo. So my point is, you can go different, but don't be too different, because there is still value in your Diaz's, in your Jesus, in your, three defenders. I don't want to say you have to have five defenders, but at least three big hitter defenders. So I think you have to find your picks in terms of where you want to be different. But going for a Rodrigo, we'll talk about Gross in the next section. They're fair, fine options, and we discussed that in the last pod as well.
Awesome. We're entering the hour 25 mark, so let's get to bus teams, Pras. But before we do, guys, thanks for your continued support. If you could subscribe to the FF Scout web YouTube channel, as well as give us a like, it really helps us get us out there. So your support is much appreciated. Really, thank you so much, and thank you FPL Focus for sort of managing the chat today. Try to be nice, guys. There's no need to be rude and mean to others, and kindness goes a long way. So yeah, I don't know what else to say there, but here we go to the bus teams. I think.
While you're loading the bus teams, I'm going to quickly do Brighton.
Oh, completely
Because
forgot.
we didn't do that. No worries. So I think the only thing about Brighton to watch is basically there's this new left back that they've signed, Estupinan. And when he came on in the second half, he played left back, and they basically went to a back four. So for the first time, they've been playing five at the back, but they moved to a back four, which meant Trossard went up top or as the left forward with Gross on the right, and then you had Welbeck up top. What that means is that, as we mentioned in the last pod, Trossard hogs the XG, and what it meant was Gross had only one touch in the penalty box, and Trossard was the one who got the goal. So again, not to scaremonger against going for Gross, I think he's a good option. But what we need to watch is how much of this new left back affects the formation, five at the back versus four at the back, and what does Trossard's role up top mean for a Gross?
Okay, perfect.
So whose team do we have first?
Okay, we've got your team, Pras, first. I can read it out for the pod. Go ahead.
I have it. Don't worry. So I've got Ramsdale in goal. I've got five at the back with Cancelo, Trent, Walker, James, and Perisic. I've got Martinelli, Salah, and Luis Diaz in midfield. I've got Jesus and Haaland up top. And my captain is Salah. So I don't think there's a debate on that, even though I think we're coming into a territory like we saw last weekend, where even though Salah will be the most captained, it's not a necessity that he's sort of, there's not a conversation to be had about others. Jesus could have easily outscored Salah last game week. Haaland was very, very unlucky not to outscore Salah. I mean, he had two chances that he should have put away. So, and he had that big chance for KDB. So I think the conversation is that Salah is the automatic captain. You'll see that across, but don't be afraid if you want it to be different. If you wanted to go for a Jesus who's home to Fulham, or a Haaland who's home to Crystal Palace. So that was one thing on captaincy. In terms of transfers, I'm 99% going to save my transfer, because I think the advantage of having two free transfers in the midweek leading up to game week 5 is pretty big, because you'll have a view on expected minutes. Let's say Haaland has his rest in game week 4, then you know that you want to start him or captain him in game week 5, or vice versa. If you get any news that Haaland isn't starting, you want to be nimble about it. But if we do get some news that Perisic is not fit, or there's problems, I'm not afraid to kind of keep moving that slot, because there's something that we've talked about, which is, if you want to be different, there's only 2 or 3 slots that you can be different. So don't be afraid to sort of move things around if that was something that you had conviction on. So for example, if Conte comes out and says that Perisic was limping on his other leg and he's not yet ready for this game, I'm happy. I'm going to move him out to somebody else who I think has high potential. But that's not my base case, which is why I said 99% I'm going to save my transfer.
Nice. Straightforward, great looking team. And I like how you're saving for next week. That's going to be very important. Okay, so my team is Ramsdale in goal, 5-3-2. Trent, Cucurella, James, Ake, Cancelo. In the midfield, Salah, Diaz, and Martinelli. Up top, Haaland and Jesus. And I'll wait on Ake news. I'm going to forego all price rises and price changes again. I mean, there's not much to do.
But what are you going to do if Ake is out?
I mean, I guess Stones, right? Or I can't get to a third Arsenal. I can't get to Saliba. Um, I mean, I could
Look
take a
for
hit.
Doherty news. Look for Doherty news. I would do that
Ooh,
switch.
yeah, but what are the chances? That's
I mean, this there seems to be this ITK on Spurs now
yep, yep.
because they play on Sunday. We don't know if he will sort of tweet his predicted lineup. I'm talking about Paul O'Keefe, and if he has Doherty starting, or if you get the right messages, you could punt on it. I mean, it's not the end
Yeah.
of it's not beyond the realms of possibilities that he's looking to get back, and especially if Conte says something, which is that he's looking to come back or he's looking fitter. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I gotta be patient, but I would love to wild card too. Um,
So now tell
yeah.
me about your wild card. Why are you thinking about wild card?
I mean, I just wanna go way more attacking and get more probably three at the back, Cancelo, Trent, and James,
Okay.
and then go attack, all out attack, and find and get those like Zaha's in there, and take a punt on Gundogan, and um,
Yeah, but you can't. Okay, so let's discuss it a little bit more. So let's say you keep in your current team, make your transfer. So sell Cucurella, sell Ake. You get 10 million out of those sales. You buy two 4 million defenders, so that's 8 million. You have 2 million extra now to spread. Where are you spending that?
no, I mean I have to tinker enough, and it's all talk. I'm definitely not gonna wild card, but
Because you'll have to
yeah.
sell Diaz. And so are you going to sell Diaz before Bournemouth at home? Because you could go Diaz to Zaha and then your 4.5 mid to a Rodrigo or something. But then essentially what you're doing in your wildcard, you're selling Cucurella and Ake for Zaha and Rodrigo.
Yeah, so chat guys, I'm just venting my frustration at this previous game week for missing out on Perisic. So yeah, I would definitely not sell Diaz either because I want three Liverpool, I want three City, and if you do that, then there's nowhere to have those 7 point mids as well. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, Rubber Ducky is saying big at the back is dead. It's not dead. I'm not going to accept defeat. Just because one game week, three of the top three teams decided to concede a couple of goals doesn't make them bad picks. So yeah, I think big at the back is strong. Are there other options? Absolutely,
Yep,
but
yep.
doesn't mean big at the back is bad. And your team, Andy, is fine.
Mm,
But I don't want to talk people out of wildcard in general because what the counter to what I've been telling you is this will be true anytime
yep,
even in game week 8. Now we're so certain we're going to get wildcard in game week 9. I don't think the conviction to sell Jesus if he's firing every single game, or Martinelli if he's looking nailed at 6 million, it's not so easy to say, okay, I'm just going to pick Madison instead because Leicester have good fixtures. It's not going to be easy. So this thing of 8 of your players look good should be true pretty much all season, or at least until game week 16, because the good teams have the best fixtures. So that's, I think, something to work to think about. If you think your team needs it, and if you have six or seven moves that you think will really improve the team, then go for it.
yeah. It's a very interesting season. The price points made this template so strong, and by the time we wild card, I don't think we're gonna have 6 or 7 guys to remove. It's gonna be again just a couple guys that will be the difference maker. So there is a way to, sort of keep up with the group and sort of not fall too far behind unless you're Sonaldo and get the minus 300% red arrow. But all
Man, come
jokes
on, forget
aside,
about red arrows. Firstly,
um,
forget about red arrows right now. This is 1 point gives you massive this is the reason, by the way, we don't have ranks here. Last
yeah,
season we had ranks and we decided we don't want to include ranks until maybe even the wild card because it's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant right now. So don't worry about red or green arrows. Don't worry about rank right now. I think the point still stands that the wildcard can be approached in two ways. One is what do you change in your team, but also what do you do leading up to the wildcard. So we talked about in our game week 1 video where you could potentially look at moving your big hitters around because they have tough fixtures. For example, City play Spurs, so you don't need to have your Spurs big hitter if you had one, or a Perisic against that game. You just sell him and move to someone else. Liverpool play Chelsea. You don't need to have a Reece James and a Cucurella. Move him and then see what you want to do on the wild card. These are things that you could do if you have a planned wild card versus when you land into a game week and say, I don't like my team, I'm going to change my team. So that's the thing that you need to do with the wild card this time.
Yeah, and Stefan says Sonaldo delete the game because it's too stressed for you. I'm like half kidding. I don't know if you guys can read between the lines. Like, trust me, I don't stress about it as much as it may look. It's actually fun for me to do this. So shout out to a lot of friends in the chat, a lot of familiar faces. Sean, our guest from last week, was there. Cam, always there. Thanks, Cam. Some other people. Should we do a couple A plus? I see you too. A couple questions before we end the stream, Pras.
Sure, sure.
Okay. Anything you see? Tony or Luis Diaz? Interesting.
If Tony or Luis Diaz is the question. I think on if you're on wildcard, Tony,
Yep.
because of the transition to Mitrovic and this change in structure. But if you had Luis Diaz or somebody else, it depends on the flexibility of your team. I think both have decent runs. Absent anything else, I like Diaz this week because he plays Bournemouth at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to own Diaz. I think Liverpool will do well. Haaland to KDB. Interesting. No. Not right now.
On wildcard, maybe because you're getting into a fixture crunch. So I think KDB will outscore Haaland over that period. So on wildcard, that's an option.
Trossard or Harrison MG. Definitely Harrison for me.
Yeah. They're just looking more attacking.
Camzy, what do I do with Son? Keep, sell for -4 to buy Diaz and Gundogan. Oh, nice.
Yes, sell.
Yeah, sell Son, unfortunately.
Oh, by the way, I also have a shout out. So I see Nelson
Okay.
Neptune in the chat.
Okay.
So Nelson is top of the Burning Questions League after 3 game weeks. And you remember the story of how I started FPL? When I came to London in 2010, I lived with a cousin of mine. Her husband, who is my brother-in-law, was Nelson Neptune, and he's the guy who sort of got me into FPL. So it's nice to see that he's top of the league in our Burning Questions. So shout out to Nelson.
Awesome. Shout out Nelson. Shout out Andrew Saad, fellow Korean FPL manager, the rare breed out here. So let's see what else. Ake to Ben Davis.
No, not Ben Davis, because he could lose his spot to Longley anyway. You could go, depending on how long Romero is out for, Davidson Sanchez. I don't think that's the worst, but I think if you were going 4.5, then just go for Dunk. I think Dunk is a decent option. This is true for you as well, by the way. If you're looking at Ake and you can go nowhere, I think going Dunk is fine.
Best 8 million mid for the next fixture. Probably Diaz. Yep.
Diaz, Saka, Mount all have great next fixture. But if you're talking about long term, then I think on wildcard, Madison could be the best 8 million mid.
Yep. Okay, maybe just 2 more and then we'll end the stream.
Actually, Ian makes a good point. Ian Norris, why is Dyer being ignored? Dyer is actually fair as well. Dyer is 5 million, right? So he could be an option as well if you wanted to get Spurs defensive coverage, and Dyer sometimes takes free kicks as well. So
Dyer's 5 million?
Isn't he?
No, it should be 4.5. I'd be very surprised if it was 5 million. Interesting.
All right, last one.
Yep.
Yeah, Dyer is 5 million.
Wow, really? That's expensive. Any good ones you see?
Start Bailey or Dunk from Killian. I think I'd go Bailey.
Yeah, because Leeds.
Yeah. Bailey. Look, he should start when he scored midweek as well. So I like Bailey.
Yep, I agree with you.
Last one, I think Sheldon asks, because I love chip questions. When do you plan to use your wildcard or triple captain? Wildcard is game week 9. That's the plan. So after the international break, triple captain, bench boost, free hit, ignore everything, forget those chips exist until you have to think about it during the World Cup, which is after game week 16. And then we will do a nice video for you to sort of give you the landscape of what are the weeks coming up. But until then, forget about it.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I think we should really end it. Hour 40 is quite long. Pros, we should try to do an hour next week if possible.
Too
We'll
many
see.
talking points, but yes, we will try.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us live. We'll be back next week, and good luck to all. And we hope everyone gets a green arrow this week. Thanks.
Good luck, everyone.